let's look at the issue of the state election now. You've been out there. I mean, I'm really interested to hear what the voters are telling you. What's the mood that you've picked up there in a very interesting seat, that of Kogarah, held by the opposition leader?
Well, it's a bit of a nothing election. I mean, I've had this view for a couple of weeks now, and I think this is borne out by this first door knock here, Kieran. When I say that, in 2011, Barry O'Farrell won the biggest result ever, based on election clean-up corruption. In 2015, Mike Baird took a policy to that election saying, sell the electricity poles and wires. And in 2019, Gladys Berejiklian had her contentious stadiums policy. So there was a battleground. What's the battleground here? Because the number one issue is clearly cost of living, and yet the government's doling out all of this relief in terms of vouchers and so forth. And what we heard a lot of on the streets here, Kieran, was interest rates and inflation, but not blaming anyone, just saying how much people are hurting because of this. So if anyone's going to cop it out here, I guess it's Phil Lowe. So it's an interesting election. We were in Blakehurst first. That's where the Liberal Party took us. Frankly, there were a lot of mansions there. There were a lot of Liberal voters there. So I asked them to move. Craig Chung, the candidate, was good enough to agree. We came to Hurstville, but we got a sense from everyone that they're not that inspired by Dominic Perrottet. And in Chris Minn's own seat of Kogarah, which is marginal, by the way, there is method behind the madness of being here. It's only about 0.1%. There isn't a lot of recognition of what Chris Minns is about, and I think that's a concern for the Labor leader. This is Barry, first of all, in Blakehurst. He's talking about the fact that Dominic Perrottet is not doing enough of a good enough sell job. He's a Liberal supporter, but he thinks the government is not selling its wares enough in terms of this election.
It just seems to be cutting through to those people who otherwise ought to be told things, but you don't seem to be doing that at all. You know, it's all very well to show that, you know, that we're doing infrastructure programs and the like, but is that enough to show people, you know, that this is where we're going? So they've got really got to educate those people out there, the voters, who can be so indifferent to what's going on. And you've got to tell them, and you've got to tell it often.
There is a bit of a feeling it would be a different contest if Gladys Berejiklian were running, even with the corruption scandal. And Craig Chung admits he's had people confront him about the corruption scandal, but outside of that, he's had plenty of people sing Gladys Berejiklian's praises to him and the job she did during COVID as well. Here's Ada, someone who probably isn't that engaged with politics, doesn't think anything of Dominic Perrottet and Chris Minns, but volunteered that she loved Gladys Berejiklian, that's her term, loved her. Well, I just wanted to ask your opinions of the leaders in this election, Dominic Perrottet versus Chris Minns.
I have no opinion on them. I think Gladys was the best. I love Gladys. I love her communication, her approach with the people. I think if anyone was to follow in the footsteps of such a leader, it would be following in the footsteps of Gladys. Other than that, I've got no other opinions on the others.
All right, now I'm going to play you Julian from Hurstville, unlucky enough to buy 1 year ago, has since seen his mortgage payments go up 50% since then, and that is totally on his radar. Says he used to be a Labor supporter, has moved more towards Liberals in the past 5 to 6 years, but really anyone who can solve his cost of living problem has his vote. What are the issues at the moment for you?
At the moment, financial. Our mortgage rates have gone up 50% year on year. January last year we bought this house and our mortgage was about $4,500. This month our mortgage is $7,000 a month, so that's a huge concern.
Is there anything you think any government, state or federal can do about that?
I think they can stop raising interest rates. I know inflation needs to be tackled, and tackling inflation is by raising interest rates, but it's hurting a lot of people. A lot of people bought property in the last 2 years during COVID and post-COVID. It's hurting a lot of people.
Wow, listen to that. In 1 year, your mortgage goes from $4,500 to $7,000 a month. I think that'd be my number one issue, and I wouldn't care about all the rats and mice of the state election campaign either. I guess Anthony Albanese's government is fearing further rate rises, and it could have a political effect on them. At the moment, it's not like they're getting blamed on the streets here. I guess people do know it is the Reserve Bank's decision. This is Marco, undecided, also on about cost of living, also has a young family. Would any of that sort of relief that the government gives you, and I know the federal government's given some too on childcare, would that change your vote, do you think? Or would you think about voting more for Dominic Perrottet because of toll relief, because of childcare relief, because of any of this stuff?
Yeah, I would. Yeah, definitely. If there's relief for families, I'm all aboard.
So his main concern before that exchange was childcare fees, Kieran. Look, I did hear about tolls. I did hear about privatisation. So that is sticking to Dominic Perrottet. But overall, people aren't inspired by this campaign. I'm not sure they think it'll make a difference. I also heard about superannuation from one woman and that all politicians were liars, and this was another sign of it, Kieran.